Okay, people. Mr. Lodge here again. We're looking at another form of chemical reaction today, and this is a video for your notes. So pause whenever you want to make notes in your notebook, and then afterwards we can look at answering some quiz questions. Okay, so chemical reaction we're looking at today is the things we need for burning, or another word for burning is combustion. That's the chemical reaction we're looking at. So what is it? What is burning? What is combustion? Well, burning is a chemical reaction. Another word for burning is combustion. So we're talking about the same thing if we're saying burning and combustion. Combustion uses up oxygen and fuel. Okay, so if we come over here to this paragraph here, this is good to get in your notes. The reactants for combustion or burning are then fuel and oxygen. And these are the things that are used up in that chemical reaction. Okay, so you can start, take this candle in the jar, for example. It's got air inside it. I mean, the candle is burning, it's combustion, so we need oxygen. Now, the candle in the big jar went out after 10 seconds. The candle in the small jar went out after 4 seconds. So that tells us in the big jar there's actually more oxygen in the big jar than there is in the small one. Seems obvious, right? But not all of that air is oxygen. If we look at this pie chart, there's another good thing for you to have in your notes. It tells us how much of the air is made up of oxygen. So 78% of the air is this unreactive gas called nitrogen. Now that pretty much remains in the atmosphere 78% all the time. And so does oxygen, really, unless you burn it. So here we go, inside that jar, we've actually used up 20% of the oxygen, and we've converted it into a product, carbon dioxide. And we'll come back to that later, the chemical equation for combustion. But it's very useful to know that within the air, actually, only 21% of the air is oxygen. That is the thing that is in the chemical reaction combustion. That's the only gas that's being used. Okay, so next few notes. For a fire to start, it needs fuel, it needs oxygen, it needs a bit of energy, a spark maybe, or heat. And we can put out a fire by removing any one of these three things, the fuel, the oxygen, or the energy. Okay. So here we go. What we usually do is talk about this in terms of the fire triangle. Oxygen, fuel, heat or energy or spark. We remove any of these, we can actually put out a fire. Okay, so this is a really good thing to have in your notes, what it means. Now, I don't know whether in your home you might have fire extinguishers. We definitely do in the science laboratory, and here are a few of them. Fire blanket, we have a powder extinguisher, we also have a carbon dioxide extinguisher. There's also water, there's also foam extinguishers too. Now, what happens is when we're using these apparatus, these extinguishers, we're actually taking away one of the things from the fire triangle. So just think about it for a second. If we have a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher here, what do you think we're actually taking away from the fire? If I douse the whole fire in a different gas, carbon dioxide, you're absolutely right. We're taking away the oxygen. So if we take away the oxygen, we cannot indeed carry on the fire. The same for the fire blanket. Put a blanket over a fire, we starve it of oxygen, we put the fire out. Powder. Powder's an interesting one. Powder actually coats the entire fuel in a fine layer of powder, which stops the oxygen getting to the fuel. All right, so there's three ways, well, two ways in which we can put out a fire. Now, a water fire extinguisher. Water up here in very bad writing. Have a think about what water does. We put water on a fire. How does that put out the fire? Okay. Take away the energy. So water is very cool, much cooler than the fire, and it actually cools down the entire fire. So we're taking away the energy that's needed for this chemical reaction to take place. Without it, that doesn't happen. So there's the fourth. Okay, so we've got water, fire blanket, powder, and CO2. Different ways we can put out fires. So, notes for you. Here's the explanation. Okay, fire blanket explanation, powder, carbon dioxide, and water. How do those things put out fires? Okay, first video, done.